One day, while Moshe is leading the Jewish people through the desert, Moshe's wife, two children, and father-in-law, Yitro, suddenly appear. There's great rejoicing at the meeting, but by morning, things are back to usual, and Moshe, from early morning to late at night, is judging the people. Yitro, the father-in-law, realizes that something's wrong here. He tells Moshe that if you continue taking responsibility for everybody, you're going to collapse. Furthermore, Yitro adds, it's not good for the people themselves to have one person taking all the responsibility. Moshe accepts the arguments and delegates responsibility, and through that, the justice system is established in Israel. I suspect that it's Yitro's second argument, that it's not good for the people for one person to have all the responsibility, is what won Moshe's heart. Because we've already seen that Moshe is willing to pay a great personal price to stop injustice when he sees it happening. We saw that when Moshe helped protect the Ivri, was being beaten by the Mitzri, even though this led him to have to flee from Egypt with a death penalty on his head. We saw this when Moshe arrives in a new land, instead of in Midian, instead of keeping a low profile, he sees injustice and starts right away fighting with the local shepherds. But so I think it's the second argument, it's the good for the people as a whole, which convinced Moshe. However, I'd like to talk about Yitro's first argument, that if you don't set boundaries for your giving to others, ultimately there'll be a terrible personal price. And to add that personal price often includes your family as well. In Rachel Remen's book, My Grandfather's Blessing, she tells the story of a person who had a successful struggle with cancer. And when that person overcame that illness, he felt that life was given to him again as a gift. And he felt a responsibility to make good use of that gift. So he decided to devote himself to what he saw to be very worthy causes, especially fighting for rights for animals. However, he so much dedicated himself for these causes that he was almost never at home, and after great neglect, his wife and children decided to leave him. And after that, he comes to Rachel, he's totally broken, and Rachel starts asking him questions. When was the last time you read a story to your child? When was the last time you had a meal together? And he just couldn't find the answer. And then she asked him, would the animals that you fight so much for their rights, would you treat them the way you treat your family? And Rachel adds that this anecdote for her was reminiscent of what the stewardesses say before every flight. They tell us at the beginning of the flight that if for some reason there's an emergency and the oxygen masks fall from above, first you put on your own mask. First make sure that you could breathe. Afterwards, you go and help the other person. Now, it's no accident that Yitro is the person who points this out to Moshe. First of all, Yitro is part of Moshe's family. He took Moshe in when Moshe fled from Egypt to Midian. And maybe, since he has a family perspective on Moshe, he could see that Moshe, together with his greatness, is also a human being, and Moshe too has limits. But maybe Yitro saw what he saw because Yitro is the father of Moshe's wife. He's the grandfather of Moshe's children. And if he's now bringing them to Moshe, he feels responsibility for them. And he realizes that Moshe's giving without limit ultimately is going to take a price on his daughter and his grandchildren as well. It's no accident that the person who taught me that the saying that a groom, a chatan, is like a king, as long as he treats his wife like a queen, was none other than my father-in-law. I remember many years ago, a rabbi gave a lecture, and he was very embittered. And he spoke about the reality of rabbis and other public leaders that are so giving with their time and so out there to save the world, to save humanity, to save the Jewish people, that often that which takes place right under their noses, their children, their family, gets severely neglected. And he brought a midrash that says that Moshe's grandchildren became priests of idolatry. And the way he understood it is that the Moshe, by not being more with his family, wasn't able to prevent them from going off to different paths. And as many midrashim, there is the medrash itself often does not appear in the Torah, but there are stories in the Torah that are explicit, make that same point. We know that Moshe, when he was called to return to Egypt, his mission was to save the Jewish people and to tell to Paro, B'ni B'chori Yisrael. The Jewish people are my children, meaning are God's children. And on the way back, there's a mysterious scene in which some sort of angel comes, threatening Moshe and his sons, and his wife saves the day. What happened over there? Apparently, Moshe did not give his sons a Brit Milah, and a neglect which the Talmud is critical of Moshe's behavior. And ultimately, it's his wife who saves the day and brings Moshe's children into the Brit Milah, into the covenant, and therefore gives them protection. I remember a number of years ago, I was supposed to give a class to the yeshiva that I teach at during the night of Shavuot. The night of Shavuot, it's customary to learn Torah the entire night, and I was supposed to give the first class to the yeshiva. However, the meal during the night went on much later than expected, and by the time the class began, this was already the time that I had designated to learn with one of my sons, and the only time that he had available. The class begins. I have all the students in the yeshiva there, and in the back of the Beit Midrash, I see my little son coming in, and my first thought is, well, somehow I'll figure it out with him, but there's so many people here. But then I remembered that embittered rabbi, and I remember the Midrash about Moshe, and I turned to the students. I told them, there are a lot of you, he's only one, but I'm his father, so I stopped the